Welcome to Legacy Leaders, a weekly talk show with national and local thought leaders on issues impacting the South Florida Black community. Now introducing our host, Anne-Marie Sorrell.
Welcome to Legacy Leaders. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Sorrell, President and CEO of the Mosaic Group, an award-winning advertising, marketing, and public relations agency. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Marcus Bright, Youth Services Administrator with the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, better known as MD, where he facilitates the development of partnerships, processes, and programs that create transformational economic and educational opportunities for youth and families in Miami-Dade County. And today, we will be discussing the issues around the school-to-prison pipeline. Welcome, Dr. Bright.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So tell us a little bit, before we dive into the topic, tell our audience a little bit about what you do and your role at MD. I mentioned it a little bit in my introduction, but dive a little bit more on what your day-to-day looks like when it comes to working with youth and families in Miami-Dade County.
So the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust is an agency within the Miami-Dade County government that has an economic development department, housing department, youth services, and research and advocacy. So I run youth services, and we have a teen court program that has been in existence for 25 years, a second chance program that provides young people who have had a minor arrest a second chance, but it also provides a legal career pathway where they can practice being attorneys and prosecutors and bailiffs and members of the jury, and they can be involved in the criminal justice system from a positive standpoint at an early age. And we're also embedding a version of that in the Miami-Dade County public school system, beginning with 10 pilot schools this year. So we're really excited about that. We have a Career Pathways Power campaign where during the last academic year, we exposed more than 2,000 students to different career pathways, specifically in health, tech, and law. And we're looking to expand that this year with a special emphasis on elevating the trades. But we're moving now really toward a focus on policy. And that's really what this discussion is going to be centered on, and we look forward to making transformative policy change so that we can create a better way of life for the residents of Miami-Dade County.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that background, Dr. Bright. So let's dive right in. We're talking about the school to prison pipeline. Now, in my years of doing community work, this has been an issue for decades and decades, and there's been numerous studies, some even indicating that the school to prison pipeline starts around third grade, where schools systems are put in place to evaluate students and their behavior and behavioral issues, and they start to transition them from detention to suspension to these little indicators that supposedly will indicate if a child will possibly end up in the prison pipeline. And I understand that there's been a recent study that was produced by researchers from the University of Miami at the request of MD. Can you tell us a little bit more about the issue and also the recent research study?
Yes, as you mentioned, this is an issue that has been prominent for the last 40, 50 years. And we really want to utilize this study as an impetus to draw needed attention, because it has to stop now. We can stop it right now. This study, as you mentioned, we commissioned, led by Dr. Todd Warner, a researcher from the University of Miami, along with Dr. Mary Avalos. And some of the findings were really striking. The study covered the years between 2010 and 2022. If you look at 2022 alone, Black youth make up 17% of the youth population in Miami-Dade County, 63% of the arrests in 2022. Black males make up 9% of the Black youth population and 52% of the arrests in 2022. We see that is massively disproportionate. It should be a crisis. It should be treated as a crisis. It is a crisis. It should be treated as a crisis. And we want to elevate this issue and propel it onto the public policy making agenda, because it's time for change and we can no longer delay what needs to be done. It should be on all of the above agenda. It should be on federal, it should be on state, it should be on local, it should be on municipal. We need an all hands approach for a massive problem. A massive problem demands a massive response, because this school to prison pipeline, after you get this criminal record, it authorizes you to be legally discriminated against, and many times for the rest of your life. And so we have to stop it before it starts. We have to find ways to prevent our young people from going into a pipeline of prison, and build new pipelines of preparation, new pipelines of productivity, new pipelines of prosperity, because we are making this to ensure the equitable economic participation of Blacks in Miami-Dade County. It's hard to participate with a criminal record. And so we want to get ahead of the curve. And I think that we have to put policies on the agenda. And we have a policy advocacy memo that will be published on our website. We can go over some of the aspects of that, but it needs to be on the agenda of our policymakers. And we have to, as a community, build a movement that creates the atmosphere, that raises the temperature in the room and forces pressure. It should be an election issue. We're coming into an election year. Have you heard this? Have you heard the school to prison pipeline on any of the presidential debate stages, on any of our federal or state or even local elections? This should be front and center. This is a time to put a concentrated focus on this issue, Anne Marie. And you mentioned that it starts in the third grade. And the third grade is a very, very pivotal time, because at third grade, it's when students should be now reading to learn, not learning to read, but reading to learn. And studies show that students that read fluently by the third grade are 6 times more likely to graduate from high school. But I would submit, and this is one of our policy recommendations, that it begins before the third grade. I would submit that we need a universal, publicly funded option for early learning coverage. Right now, our public option begins at kindergarten. You can take your child to school at kindergarten and it's fully covered. But too many of our young people come into kindergarten already behind, and then they stay behind from a literacy standpoint by that third grade. And then by the time you reach high school, many of our high schools right now, 70% of the students are not reading on grade level at 10th grade. That starts before kindergarten. And so we have to look at the current hodgepodge of early learning programs that we have. And we have a VPK program that covers 3 hours a day at age 4. What about the other 5 hours? That's one step. But I would submit that it should start at 2 or 3 months, if not before, all the way until kindergarten. Why are we waiting until kindergarten to put our young people into a professional learning environment? Because quite frankly, it's unaffordable for many people that what used to be called the middle class. We're number one in America in terms of the percentage of housing price increase. We're number one in terms of the percentage of income that people spend on housing. And so if your rent has gone up $1,000, $1,500 a month, or if your homeowner's insurance has gone up that much, you may not now be able to afford to put your child in a $400, $500, $600 or more dollars a week professional early learning system. And we need that. And so we see the gaps between the haves and the have-nots explained. So that's one policy that we want to put forward. We need a universal public option for early learning. That should be covered. We can also look at moving the federal poverty line. Right now, to qualify for Head Start, a family of 4 can't make over like $26,000. So what about that? So what about those that make over that but still can't afford that early learning coverage? And so we want to fortify the early part first, as you mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, Dr. Bright, there's so much to unpack, and I have quite a few additional questions. Definitely want to go into some of the agenda for the policy, your policy agenda, but we're going to do that right after this quick commercial break. So stay with me, Dr. Bright.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman & Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family. Our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 954-6673. Demesman and Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
My Miami is a serene getaway of kicking, swinging, grunting, swimming, spinning, and steaming. It's my special place I can only find in this special place. I call this endorphin-inducing retreat my fitnesscape. This is my Miami. What's yours?
Help comes in many forms. As a Miami-Dade County bus operator, you can help your community, help those in need, and even help yourself. Operators have the opportunity to earn more than $50,000 a year plus built-in overtime, earn more than 13 paid holidays and vacation days, and take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program. Plus, qualified new drivers will receive a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Become a driving force in our community. Apply now at miamidade.gov/busdriver.
Welcome back, Dr. Bright. So I want to dive a little bit into the agenda items, and then I want to kind of shake it up a little bit. So let's talk about the policy agenda and what that entails. And then I have some pressing questions for you.
Okay. Well, obviously, with such a complex and multifaceted problem, there is not one silver bullet policy solution that's going to solve and solve everything. So there's a multitude of different policies that should be passed, and there's a multitude of different practice changes that we need as well. But it certainly needs to be undergirded by some core policy prescriptions. Another that we propose is in the same way that after the tragic shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, the state legislature mandated for there to be a police officer in every school. With that same mandate, we need a mental health coordinator in every school, a dedicated person who can galvanize and organize the mental health resources in the community to serve students. We can no longer just rely on just the guidance counselor or one person to service the tremendous mental health needs that we have in our community. And so we have to we have to pour resources into mental health to make sure that students are getting the tools that they need to be able to manage their conflicts, to be able to deal and control with their emotions, and potentially prevent them from engaging in behaviors that may lead to incarceration. Also, it's not just enough to disrupt the school to prison pipeline. We have to build new pipelines of career opportunity, new pipelines of preparation, specifically those that align with industries that are surging in our community. Miami-Dade County or South Florida is number one in the country in tech job sector growth, number one in tech job sector migration. We didn't land on Silicon Valley, Anne-Marie. Silicon Valley landed on us, and we must be prepared to participate economically in the opportunities that exist. What does that mean? That means that by the time students graduate high school, they need to have an industry recognized credential in either tech or in the trades that they can leave and then become viable economically. So one of the most sought after skill sets, for example, is computer science. Students should be leaving high school certified in JavaScript, certified in Python, certified in some of the other skill sets that will qualify them to be able to fill, for example, one of the 700,000 open cybersecurity jobs right now. So we have to take advantage of the K-12 system, and the students that are required to be there, they need to then leave with the skill set that they can take and become immediately economically viable. Same with the trades. It should be tech and or the trade. You need to be out of there with a trade, HVAC. You need to be able to repair a car and be certified with that credential, and or a tech credential in addition to the other academic programming that we have. But I think that it's imperative now in order for us to be able to compete economically. We have to, I think that has to be dealt with from a policy standpoint. It has to be mandated.
And so you're asking policymakers to mandate these programs in school and mandate that students leave with certifications in these programs, is what I'm hearing.
Yes, but we don't want it to be an unfunded mandate. With the
Well, of
mandate
course,
should come massive funding.
It would have to be funding. And so I want to just kind of talk about funding for a moment, right? So, we live in a capitalistic society. And the reality is that one of the unfortunate benefits of privatizing prisons is that it's a labor market. And so for those who capitalize on prisons and the privatization of prisons, it's in their best interest to have a pipeline, such as the school to prison pipeline. Is that not correct?
Oh, yeah, there are.
So how do you battle that?
Yeah, there are a number of different entities who are invested in the status quo, which is why we need drama, which is why we need, before we can disrupt the school to prison pipeline, we have to disrupt the status quo. And there are a number of folk who are comfortable just how it is. They raking money hand over fist, just how it is. And so there has to be a movement, a sustained movement that puts focus on it. We have to make the economic argument. We can either spend this money now investing and paying high quality teachers who can teach computer science, can teach the high level tech, who can teach trades in the school, who can provide the curriculum and the infrastructure needed. We can make that kind of investment. We can make an investment in universal early learning coverage. We can make an investment in mental health. We can make that investment now on the front end, or we can keep making the investment on the back end in terms of the prison industrial complex. Because you're going to pay either way. You can pay on the front end, or you're going to pay on the back end. And we are sick of being fodder for the criminal justice system. You better choose somebody else. It ain't going to be us.
Listen,
it's going to end now. It's going to end now. Like Deion Sanders said, we coming.
So, Dr. Bright,
stopped on this issue.
Do you think we can realistically mobilize our community to fight against this particular institutionalized system that many are benefiting on, from the foods we eat to the things we buy? Sometimes we are supporters of this system ourselves because we purchase products that are made in prisons, right? So we are sometimes fueling this to our own detriment, in a sense. But I don't think many of the people in the community know about this. So how do we, from a community level, how do we change this? Because policymakers listen to voters, listen to community members. So how do you propose, or MD propose, this is changed on a community level?
Well, there is a belief bridge that we have to cross. We have to believe that we can do it. Tap into and learn from the lessons of history. If Frederick Douglass and the abolitionists, if they can believe that they could change a system of slavery that a lot of folk benefited from, that had been in existence for over 200 years, if they can believe that they could change that system, they could keep going, they could create the environment that led to the Civil War, that led to the Emancipation Proclamation, that led to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And they didn't have social media, they didn't have computers, they didn't have a quarter of the resources that we have. If they could do it, if Dr. King and those of his generation, if they could upend a Jim Crow system that had been in existence 100 years, we can come now and dramatize this shameful condition. That movement, which was dealt with a massive problem, also the movement created massive legislation. The movement created the Civil Rights Act of 64, the Voting Rights Act of 65, the Fair Housing Act of 68. It created all of the education and the elementary and secondary education act, the higher education act, the entire Great Society. We must look at those models and replicate those models in our own way now. It's not just enough, and we need to preserve Black history, but we need to be making Black history. We have a lifetime chance, I believe, and this report, this data can serve as an impetus, because the school to prison pipeline is no longer just a nomenclature. It's no longer just something that is in academic theory. These are the numbers right here. This happening right here in this community. You gonna do something about it? Or are you gonna sit on your hands and be a naysayer and complain and not take any action? I'll tell you this right here. If we fail, we're gonna fail in action, but we're not gonna fail because of inaction. It is time to act now. And we're moving. This train is moving, Anne Marie. This train is moving. We're going to move it, and we're going to build it bit by bit. It's going to take all of us, but the train is moving. Folk can decide to get on board, or you can sit on the sideline. But it's not the critic that counts, but it's the man or the woman that's in the arena.
Okay, well, we're going to come back to the man and the woman in the arena after this quick commercial break.
I grew up down here in South Florida, so for me, it's a little bit more personal.
For the Mesman & Dover Law Firm, it's about community.
For us, South Florida's our home. You all are our people.
Our family, our future.
The difference we'll make for you, your loved ones, your kids, matters, because to us, it's personal.
If you need us, call us 24/7 at 866-954-MORE.
That's 866-954-6673. The Mesman & Dover Law Firm, youraccidentattorneys.com.
Help comes in many forms. As a Miami-Dade County bus operator, you can help your community, help those in need, and even help yourself. Operators have the opportunity to earn more than $50,000 a year plus built-in overtime, earn more than 13 paid holidays and vacation days, and take advantage of the tuition reimbursement program. Plus, qualified new drivers will receive a $5,000 sign-on bonus. Become a driving force in our community. Apply now at miamidade.gov/busdriver.
My Miami? It's a one-of-a-kind combination of bold, vibrant art that's made to be free, to go on stages, walls, or become them. It all leads me to a world filled with warm waters and extraordinary trails. This is when I'm at my best, when I'm embracing my art venturous side. This is my Miami. What's yours?
Welcome back, Dr. Bright. So, again, I like to play a little devil's advocate. We can talk about policy and policymakers, and some policymakers who, for whatever reason, will say, well, we can make a policy, but what about the child's environment? What about parenting? What about the so-called village that it takes to raise this child? So what do you say to the village? What do you say to parents who, in some cases, the children are a product of their environment and their circumstances, their socioeconomic circumstance? What has to be done at home? What has to be done in the community to ensure that children are learning, to ensure that their mental health and behavioral challenges are being addressed appropriately, but then more so to ensure that they stay out of circumstances that could potentially put them in the system?
Absolutely. It's going to take policy. It's going to take changes in practice, and it's going to take changes in our culture that we prioritize, that we emphasize those systems of success and transfer them into areas like academic development, into our mental, our spiritual development, into seizing economic opportunity. But the good news is that we have a model of success that we can replicate. We produce in South Florida the best high school football players in the United States of America. That is an example of infrastructures of opportunity that we can replicate. You go to Gwen Cherry Park, 4 and 5-year-olds, they're being coached, they're being encouraged. We have parents out there cheering for them. They see role models. They see encouragement from the community. They see community celebration. They see the mass marketing of the Lamar Jacksons and the Jalen Hurts. They can see the social and economic incentives that come with excelling in this particular area. So we can transfer that to other areas like the trades, like tech. It's hard to aspire to want to be an engineer, for example, if you never met one. Where is the AAU system for robotics? Where are the competitions for software development? Some of these, we don't just have to rely on the athletic lottery, but we have a replicable system. And I'm not anti-athletics at all. I went to school on a basketball scholarship. That's how I got to Florida. Thank God. I love me some South Florida. That's how I got here. but we can take that system of success that we have in athletics and really study it and then transfer that into other arenas of life. I think that we have the blueprint and we can seize it right there.
Absolutely. And I like that approach. And no, not to be, no one's anti-athletics. I think athletics opens up a lot of doors for our youth and people. But like you said, we have to be pro other professions, pro other, especially in technology, because that's the wave of our future. So definitely agree with that. And how does someone get involved with the efforts that you're doing with Youth and Family and MD if they want to be a part of this conversation moving forward?
You can email me at marcus.bright@miamidade.gov. Again, that's marcus.bright@miamidade.gov. There is something, if you're in Miami-Dade County, there is something that you can align with in terms of our program. And again, we're about to roll out a student court pilot program that's in 10 schools that range all the way from Miami Norland all the way to South Dade Senior High School. We have a teen court program that is ongoing, that is north, south, and central. We have different career pathways programs that are taking place. So you can connect with us, but it's gonna take an entire village. So I would just encourage everyone to do. This is a time of internal, I think, reflection. I had to really sit with the numbers. As someone who was the principal administrator for the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project for 4 years. That's a dropout prevention and mentorship program that's in 120 schools, 8,000 boys in the program. And I really had to sit with it because as tremendous, as phenomenal as the program was, it's obviously that we can all do more. And it was really through that internal reflection that I really became convicted and convinced that we have to move policy. We're not going to be able to just program our way out of this. We're not going to be able to just nonprofit our way out of this. We don't have the capacity to cover everyone. We need policy. We need policy solutions in tandem with practice, in tandem with changing our culture, in tandem with replicating those models of success and crossing the belief bridge. And then after the belief bridge crossed, plugging our capacity into systems of success and then seizing those windows of opportunity. This is a window of opportunity and we must seize it and execute appropriately.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Bright, for joining me. Dr. Bright, Youth Services Administrator for the Miami-Dade Economic Advocacy Trust, MD. And thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Sorrell. See you next time on Legacy Leaders.